You did everything right. You followed the path they said would make you happy. The grades, the job, the promotions, the applause, the nods of approval. On paper, your life looks perfect. But inside, something feels missing. A strange hollowness no one warned you about. Like success came with a silence you didn't expect. You're not failing, you're functioning. But it feels like you're drifting. You go through the motions, smile at the right moments. But when you're alone, there's a heaviness in your chest. Not pain, not even sadness, just nothing, a quiet kind of numb. And it confuses you because nothing is wrong. So why does everything feel flat? Why does joy feel so far away? It's a question you're afraid to ask out loud, because people wouldn't understand. Because they'd remind you how lucky you are, because even you don't fully understand. But this feeling is real. It's the loneliness that hides inside achievement. The kind that follows you after milestones. The kind that whispers, "Was that it?" No one talks about how empty success can feel, how exhausting it is to always be okay, how much energy it takes to hold everything together, how lonely it gets when you're the strong one, the capable one, the one who made it. But the truth is, no amount of success can replace connection. No number of achievements can substitute meaning, and you are not broken for feeling this. You are not ungrateful. You are simply human. Being human means needing more than accomplishments. It means needing truth. It means needing presence and permission to say, "I don't feel okay." But somewhere along the way, you learn to suppress that voice, to perform strength instead of showing pain, to be admired instead of being understood. You learned that being fine was safer than being real. So you became the person everyone could count on. It's the one who never needs help, the one who always has it together. But inside you miss being held. Not physically, but emotionally. You miss being asked how you really are meaning it. You miss the kind of connection that sees beyond performance, sees past your title, your status, your role, that sees you not as an achiever, not as a success story, but as a soul, raw, honest, unpolished. You are not the only one who feels this way. There are others like you succeeding on the outside, silent on the inside, wondering why joy feels distant even when life looks full. You are not alone. What you're feeling has a name: emotional disconnection, not from others, but from yourself. The kind of disconnection that happens when performance replaces presence, when achievement is prioritized over authenticity, when you measure your worth in outcomes instead of aliveness. But your heart wasn't made to be measured. It was made to feel, to break, to soften, to laugh unexpectedly, to need, too long, to rest. You don't need to justify your emptiness. You don't need to explain your exhaustion. You've been running so long, you forgot what stillness feels like. You've been reaching so far, you lost touch with where you are. It's okay to stop. It's okay to question everything. It's okay to admit, "I thought this would feel different." Because you're not broken. You're awakening. Awakening to the truth that success isn't everything. Awakening to the quiet ache for meaning, for connection, for presence. For a life that feels like yours, not just one that looks impressive. You are allowed to want more, not in things, but in depth. Not in praise, but in peace. You are allowed to feel empty in a full room. You are allowed to long for slowness after years of speed. You are allowed to say, "I want something softer, something real, something true." You're not failing if your soul feels tired. You're not weak for feeling numb. You're simply waking up to what you truly need. Not applause, not achievement, but intimacy with yourself and the freedom to just be. No performance, just presence. There's a quiet grief that comes with success. It's the kind you never expected, because no one told you that achievement can feel so empty, that arriving at the top can feel lonelier than the climb. You worked so hard to get here. Now that you're here, it feels like something is missing. Not from outside, but from within. It's like you traded pieces of yourself along the way. Smiles when you were tired. Silence when you wanted to scream. Productivity when what you needed was rest. You wore the costume of confidence, No one noticed the cracks underneath, because you became so good at performing, at showing only what was acceptable, at hiding your questions behind polished answers. But pretending is heavy, and your soul is tired of holding up the mask. Maybe this emptiness isn't a failure. Maybe it's a signal, okay? A quiet invitation to return to yourself. Not the version of you who wins, but the version who wonders. The one who still remembers how to feel. You've been surviving on surface for too long. Smiling, achieving, moving on. But never really stopping, never really asking, what do I need? Or, what truly matters to me? The world rewards appearances, but your soul is starving for truth. And that hunger shows up as emptiness, as restlessness you can't explain, as sadness without a story, as a longing that has no words. That's not failure. It's your inner life trying to speak. And maybe, just maybe, you've been too loud to hear it, too busy, too accomplished, too focused on being enough. But your worth never lived in your success. It lives in your stillness, in your being, in the quiet truth of your heart. And when that truth is ignored long enough, numbness sets in. Because the soul protects itself by going quiet, not to punish you, but to wait for you. Wait for you to slow down, wait for you to listen, wait for you to come home. Success without presence is hollow. Praise without intimacy is noise. Busyness without joy is burnout. So if you feel disconnected, it's not a sign of weakness. It's a sign you've been away from yourself for too long. That you've been managing life instead of living it. And now your soul is asking for something different, something quieter, something truer, not more but less. Less pressure, less pretending, less perfection, more softness, more breath, more meaning. The world will tell you to keep pushing, to keep proving, to keep performing. But you are allowed to rest. You are allowed to feel. You're allowed to not have it all figured out. Because wholeness isn't about having everything. It's about being present with whatever is here. Even if that's confusion, even if that's emptiness, even if that's a quiet ache in your chest. Let it be there. Let yourself soften around it. You don't need to fix it all at once. You only need to begin listening to the quiet voice beneath the noise. It's the one that says, I miss myself. That voice matters. That voice is sacred. It deserves your attention. You don't need another achievement right now. You need truth. You need to come back into alignment with what's real, not what looks impressive, but what actually nourishes you. What actually brings light back into your eyes? Is that maybe art, or friendship, or silence? It may be long walks, or shorter to-do lists. It may be therapy, or poetry, or prayer. Whatever it is, it won't feel like striving. It will feel like remembering. And that is how you begin to come home. You've checked all the boxes they told you to check. Got the job, the degree, the apartment. You smile in photos and say, I'm fine on cue. From the outside, you've made it. But inside, there's a strange silence. Not peace, not contentment. It's just a kind of blankness. Like you're watching your life from far away. Like you're living, but not really alive. This is the loneliness no one talks about. The ache that comes after you succeed. When all the noise settles and you're left with yourself. You've been so busy becoming what others admire, that you forgot to ask, do I admire this version of me? Or did I build a life that looks right, but feels wrong? The world never taught you how to feel at home within. Only how to be impressive on the outside. They told you how to perform, not how to pause. How to achieve, not how to connect. How to win, but not how to feel safe in being seen. So you learned to keep going. Even when you were tired. Even when something inside whispered, this isn't it. You pushed that voice aside. Because there was always another goal, another email, another expectation. And when your body started to protest, you called it weakness. When your heart felt numb, you called it burnout. But maybe it was something deeper. Maybe it was grief. Grief for the version of you that got left behind. The soft one, the playful one, the one who didn't care about being perfect. The one who laughed too loudly and didn't apologize for needing rest. That version of you still exists. It's just beneath the polished shell, waiting. Healing isn't about becoming someone new. It's about remembering who you were before the world told you who to be. That's why the emptiness feels so sharp. Because it's the space where your real self is missing, and no success can fill that space. No amount of praise can replace authenticity. No paycheck can restore your soul. What you long for is not more. It's depth, presence, realness. You miss late-night talks where no one pretends. You miss silence that doesn't feel awkward. You miss days that aren't measured by output. Your nervous system is asking for slowness. Your heart is asking for softness. Your spirit is asking for honesty. But honesty is hard when you've been performing for so long. When I'm okay has become a habit. When your worth feels tangled in how useful you are. It takes courage to pause, to say, this isn't working for me, to admit that you're not happy even when everything looks fine. But that's where healing begins. In that uncomfortable truth, in that trembling honesty, because you can't heal what you won't face, and you can't feel alive if you're always pretending. So take off the mask, even just for a moment. Let yourself be unpolished. Let yourself be confused. Let yourself be real. You don't have to have answers. You don't have to be inspiring right now. You don't even have to be productive. You just have to be here. Breathing, listening, honoring what is true. That is enough. That is sacred. The path back to wholeness is slow, but it begins with noticing. Noticing what feels heavy. Noticing where you feel disconnected. Noticing what parts of you are asking for love. Maybe it's the tired one. Maybe it's the tender one. Maybe it's the little child inside who still doesn't feel safe. You don't have to fix it all. You only have to sit beside it. With compassion, with breath, with slowness. That's how the numbness begins to thaw. That's how the silence begins to sing again. Not with force, but with presence. And you are allowed to return to presence, even after all this time. Especially after all this time. Because you were never too far gone, just too far away from yourself. Sometimes the emptiness isn't about what's missing. It's about what you've been carrying too long. The pressure to always be doing well. The pressure to smile when you're falling apart inside. The pressure to be the strong one, the dependable one, the successful one. But being the strong one doesn't mean you don't hurt. It just means you've learned how to hide it better. And when no one sees your pain, you begin to wonder if it matters. Or worse, if you matter. So you keep performing, because at least performance earns approval, even if it costs you your peace. But no applause can replace genuine connection. No recognition can replace being understood. And you've been starving for understanding, for someone to see behind the roles, to see the ache beneath the excellence. To see you, not the version everyone depends on, but the version who feels lost sometimes, who wonders, is this all there is? You're not ungrateful. You're not dramatic. You're human. And humans were not made to live only on milestones. We were made for meaning, for moments, for connection that doesn't demand performance, but instead offers presence. You've been running on empty and wondering why you feel so disconnected, because your soul doesn't speak in metrics. It speaks in stillness, in the quiet between tasks, in the ache you feel before bed, in the way your chest tightens when no one's watching. Tightness isn't weakness, it's wisdom. Your body is trying to tell you what your mind keeps avoiding, that this life you've built may look good, but it doesn't feel good. Not in the ways that matter. It's not in the ways that make your heart say yes. So you feel numb, disconnected, like your joy is on mute. And that's not because you're broken. It's because you've been surviving instead of living. And surviving is exhausting, especially when no one sees the cost. Especially when success becomes a cage instead of a home. So you smile through the silence. But inside, you're wondering if anyone would notice if you stopped pretending. If anyone would sit beside you without asking you to be okay. Maybe you've never known what that feels like. To be held without being fixed. To be heard without being judged. To be seen without needing to perform. That's the ache beneath the emptiness. The longing for realness. For presence. For something deeper than appearance. And it's not too late to find that. Even if you've forgotten how to ask for it. Even if you've spent years pretending you didn't need it. Truth is, you do. We all do. Because we weren't made to live behind masks. We're made to be known. To be loved not for what we do, but for who we are. Even when who we are feels messy. Even when we're still figuring it out. Especially then, you don't have to know what's next. You only need to know what's true. And the truth is this version of you right now is worthy of gentleness, of space, of breathing room. You're allowed to slow down, to feel your feelings, to stop explaining them away. Because healing begins the moment you stop arguing with what is and start listening. You've tried fixing yourself with effort. Try meeting yourself with tenderness. You've tried pushing through the pain. Try sitting with it instead. It won't destroy you. It's just the part of you that's been left in the dark too long, waiting for light, waiting for you, and you are ready now. Not to be perfect, but to be honest. Not to be admired, but to be whole. And wholeness begins with telling the truth, even when that truth is, I feel empty. There is a silence that lives beneath success. It echoes louder when the noise fades, when the praise ends, the notifications stop, when the to-do list is finally empty. And suddenly you're alone with yourself. No distractions, no achievements to hide behind, just you. And a feeling you can't quite name. It's not sadness, exactly. Not quite depression, it's but a soft ache. A hollowness where something should be, something warm, something alive. But instead, you feel distant. Like your joy belongs to someone else now. Like your laughter got lost somewhere between expectations and exhaustion. You're not alone in this. Many people feel it, but few talk about it. Because emptiness feels shameful, especially when you've done everything right. You followed the plan. You worked hard. You made it. And still, your heart is restless. That's not a sign that you failed. It's a sign that the plan was missing something. Something human, something sacred, something no job title can provide. You see, fulfillment is not the same as success. You can have one without the other. And when they don't align, you feel the gap in your chest, whispers through your quiet moments. Through your distracted scrolling, through the tension in your shoulders, it says this isn't quite it. And that voice is not your enemy. It's your soul trying to guide you home. To the version of you that's real, not the polished version. Not the pleasing version, but the one who breathes a little deeper, who laughs without reason, who remembers how to rest. And maybe you've forgotten how to be that person, but they're still in you, underneath the layers of achievement, underneath the roles and routines. They're still waiting. It's waiting for you to slow down, waiting for you to care. Again, not about outcomes, but about truth, because the truth is what sets you free. Even if it breaks your image, even if it disrupts the narrative, even if it means admitting, I'm not okay. The confession isn't weakness. It's a doorway into a more honest life, to connections that don't require performance, into mornings that feel lighter, into a life that doesn't feel like a constant transaction. You deserve that kind of life, one with softness, silence that heals, not haunts, with people who stay even when the mask comes off. But first, you must stay with yourself, in the silence, in the questions, in the uncomfortable spaces. Healing doesn't always feel good. Sometimes it feels like falling apart. But falling apart is sometimes falling into place, into a self you've been avoiding, into a truth you've been too tired to face. And that's okay. You're not late. You're not broken. You're just becoming honest. And honesty has always been the beginning of healing. Not self-help books, not better routines, not more goals, but presence, stillness, feeling what you're afraid to feel, and letting it soften you instead of shame you. You're not lazy for feeling tired. You're not ungrateful for wanting more meaning. You're not selfish for needing space. You're human. Your humanity is sacred, even when it's messy, even when it's confused. Especially then, because that's where your real self lives. Not in the performance, but in the pause. You wake up tired, even after 8 hours of sleep. The weariness isn't physical, it's emotional. Quiet fog around your heart, like something is missing, but you don't know what. You try to shake it off. Coffee, music, productivity. You try to be grateful. After all, your life looks fine. More than fine, even. Psst. People say they admire you, that they wish they had your life. And still, you feel like a ghost inside your own body. Like you're living someone else's version of happiness. You check your calendar, meetings, calls, tasks, but nothing that touches your soul. Nothing that makes your eyes light up. You begin to wonder if that's normal, if adulthood is just numbness. A series of achievements followed by a deeper kind of emptiness. But it's not normal. It's just common. There's a difference. Common means many people feel it. Normal means it's how things are supposed to be. And this emptiness is not how it's supposed to be. You were not made for endless doing. You were made for being, for beauty, for aliveness, for connection that doesn't feel like a performance. But somewhere along the way, success became your substitute for intimacy, and applause replaced affection. You've been chasing applause because silence feels like abandonment. But silence isn't always empty. Sometimes it's a sacred invitation to return to yourself, to ask deeper questions. Who am I when no one is watching? Who am I when I stop achieving? Am I when I'm not needed? These are not easy questions, but they're the doorway to truth. And truth is the only thing that can fill the hollow places. Not more tasks, not more praise, just honesty, space to breathe. Maybe you've built a life too tight for your soul to stretch in. Maybe you've been living in a role instead of a life. It's not your fault. The world taught you to measure your worth in output, in results, in likes. But your worth is not a number. It's in the quiet moments, the way you cry at sunsets, the way you listen to someone without interrupting, the way your heart softens at the sound of rain. It's where your aliveness lives, in the small sacred things. You don't need to become someone else. You need to remember who you were before the pressure, before the striving, before success became survival. There's still time to make room for joy without reason, for rest without guilt, for presence without performance. You don't need to have it all figured out. You just need to begin. Begin by slowing down, by telling the truth, by sitting with the silence instead of fearing it. Let the silence show you what you've been missing. Let it reveal the spaces that ache for something real. Let it teach you how to be with yourself again. You are not empty. You're just disconnected. And reconnection takes time. It takes softness. It takes choosing what nourishes over what impresses. And that's a brave choice, because the world will always push you to produce. But your soul is asking you to pause, to notice, to listen, to return to the parts of you you've abandoned and welcome them back home. Not because you need fixing, but because you need feeling. It's a real kind. The kind that makes you whole again. That kind that says you're allowed to just be, and that's enough. You've spent years building a life, a good life, with structure, with recognition, with comfort. Still, there's a part of you that aches quietly, not loudly enough to stop you, but deeply enough to unsettle you. You smile through it. You say, I'm fine. You fill the space with noise, with screens, with motion. But when the noise fades, it returns. That soft, invisible weight, that tug at the edge of your being. The loneliness that success cannot cure, because success doesn't hold your hand. It doesn't call to check if you're okay. It doesn't stay up with you when the thoughts get heavy. Success gives you applause. It rarely gives you intimacy. And applause doesn't hug you back. You were told that if you worked hard enough, the emptiness would leave. But no one told you that achieving more doesn't always mean feeling more. In fact, sometimes it means feeling less, because you become numb, because you forget how to slow down, because you trade wonder for strategy and awe for efficiency. But your soul was not designed for endless acceleration. Your heart longs for something deeper, something that cannot be optimized, something quiet, something real. That something begins inside you. In the moments when you stop performing, when you stop proving, when you sit with the ache instead of escaping it and ask it gently, what are you trying to teach me? Maybe the ache is a map, a guide back to your forgotten self, the version of you that felt things fully, that dreamed without limits, that found magic in small things. You don't need a new goal. You need a new rhythm, one that allows for pauses, for rest that doesn't require guilt, for conversations that go beyond housework, for friendships that welcome your quiet, for mornings that begin with breath, not urgency, for evenings that end in peace, not distraction. The emptiness isn't asking you to do more. It's asking you to feel more, to feel the grief of what you've lost by rushing, to feel the joy of what's still waiting, to feel your life again, not just manage it. Healing doesn't always come with clarity. Sometimes it comes with confusion, with stillness, with sacred questions and no answers yet, and that's okay. Healing is not a performance. It's a return to softness, to presence. to asking yourself honestly, what do I truly need? Not what looks impressive, not what earns validation, but what nourishes your soul, what brings you home to yourself. And maybe, just maybe, it's something smaller than you expected. A walk with no destination. A friend who listens without fixing. A morning with no goals. A moment of laughter that isn't posted. A day without pretending. Maybe success doesn't have to look like achievement. Maybe success is learning how to feel again. How to rest. How to need people without shame. How to love yourself without conditions. You are not empty. You are overflowing with unmet tenderness. You are full of forgotten wonder. You are heavy with unspoken truths, and they are waiting to be seen. You are not broken. You are awakening. Not to a new version of you, but to the most honest version. The one who doesn't need to perform to be loved. The one who belongs even in silence. The one who is enough even when you're not producing. That version of you is here now. Under the noise, beneath the rolls, in the stillness. Waiting patiently, whispering gently. You don't have to earn peace, you just have to allow it. And when you do, the emptiness begins to exhale. This is quiet philosophy, where thinking isn't loud, and life doesn't need to be either. Subscribe if you haven't already, not for noise, but for something you can actually feel.